Alright, before we get into the nitty gritty, let's get this out the way first. The race was absolutely amazing for F1 standards. Depending on how you view F1, it's either a very high bar or extremely low. Once again, Max Verstappen and Red Bull take home the victory, but that 5-second penalty basically wasn't a penalty because the car is not only so fast and he's not only so talented, but on the radio, he was like, oh, okay, that's fine. To a penalty. I have never heard a driver say that. Once again, I thought the race was pretty good, and also qualifying went without a hitch, but the clownery leading up to it, oh my gosh. And I'm not talking about just this weekend, I'm talking about from the moment it was announced. Now there was a lot to keep up with, just from this weekend alone, but I was able to go back in time and also gather up some of the issues leading up to this race. But anyways, let's get into it. The first thought from many Formula One fans once the street course was announced was, what type of layout were we going to see? But once it was revealed, many were not too happy about it. They felt the racing product would suffer as a result, and I'm gonna be honest, there's plenty out there who thinks F1's racing product really sucks already. But even for the diehard fans who feel otherwise, they thought this street course layout was garbage. Now the layout is one thing, but how were the locals gonna feel about Formula One racing in their town? It just so happens that this was my hometown I grew up in, specifically in North Las Vegas, which with minimal traffic takes around 20 to 25 minutes to get to the strip. But as it turns out, many of the locals weren't going to be able to go because they simply couldn't afford it. General admission was $500, and casinos were offering packages with hotel rooms and event tickets for up to $100,000. Now just comparing the hotel's ticket packages, Wynn Las Vegas had the highest, with a ticket package costing $1 million. But by the time race weekend rolled around, a lot of ticket and hotel packages, as well as just the grandstand seats, dropped 35%. And that's over the last month. I don't have the exact percentage, but I'm pretty sure it's safe to say it's probably dropped more than 50%.
Well, is Formula One becoming more affordable?
After months of skyrocketing hotel rates, things seem to be coming back down a bit for November's race weekend.
A huge drop in hotel prices for the F1 weekend. Room rates at prime mid-strip properties for November 16th through the 19th more than tripled when they were first published last fall. Since then, they've been cut in half. The price is still much higher than normal, but economic data expert John Netto says this tactic makes it feel like a bargain.
People feel like they're getting a deal because they've emotionally tethered themselves to this price point. Yet while doing that, they're still paying 7 to 10 times the amount of what they would normally be.
He added it also gives those with a little less money to spend better opportunities.
Better opportunities? To what? To spend a month's rent on one race weekend? And I thought the general admission for NASCAR's Chicago street course was expensive. Now that's the bargain. In the months leading up to this race, the street course was being constructed. But a problem that is typical with every street course being built is the locals, tourists, and workers suffering in traffic.
Crazy.
The roads are packed ahead of most of the closures that'll happen this week, and thousands of folks have no choice but to drive on and around the strip.
These guys are blocking the intersections every day, every single one of these cars. I've been sitting on the freeway, sitting on Flamingo from the 215. We're at Las Vegas Boulevard for 45 minutes because Metro's not out here regulating this. Where are they? They know this is messed up.
Well, some traffic lanes in front of the Bellagio are now closed as grandstands for the F1 race are now being built. Traffic gets backed up big time on Las Vegas Boulevard, southbound at Flamingo. Cars get stuck in the middle of the intersection, forcing drivers, like this RTC bus driver, to go nowhere.
The traffic getting in was unbelievable. I have never spent an hour to get from the airport to the hotel.
I know I ran those clips a little long, but I think talking over them wouldn't do it justice. I wanted you to get a sense of what it actually is like. I used to live 8 minutes from the Strip in my off-campus apartment. Also, the airport is pretty much right down the street from me and is pretty close to the Strip, so taking an hour to get from the airport to the hotel is insane. Thank God I don't have to deal with that traffic. Now, I wouldn't be doing my job if I failed to mention that as a result of the construction, the Strip has been changing a lot. And according to locals and tourists, not for the better.
Formula One has changed the way Las Vegas looks, possibly forever. I have good news and bad news. Cab drivers have announced they'll be charging a $15 surcharge for all fares during the event weekend. They say this is to offset the European visitors who do not tip. Expect other businesses to add similar surcharges. The view from pedestrian bridges are being blocked both for safety and to prevent people from viewing the race. You are not going to believe this F1 Las Vegas update. First, they came for the trees, chopping them down in the middle of the night, leaving Las Vegas Boulevard looking like a naked mole rat. Then they came for the fountains. They built these massive grandstands, which completely obstructs the view of the fountains from the boulevard. Then it was the volcano. You can't see it anymore either. But now they've taken our water too. This is what Venetian looked like last week, an iconic landmark on the Strip. And this is what it looks like today. They have taken all of the water, emptied it out, and replaced it with what I can only assume will be huge grandstands.
Now, the good news is the traffic was starting to flow better, as one side of the Strip had a pretty good traffic flow a few weeks before race weekend. But yeah, that's pretty much all the stuff that happened leading up to race weekend. Now let's get into the real nitty-gritty. I'm sure this part of the video is what most of y'all have been waiting for. And while I expected some type of clownery to happen during the weekend, oh my gosh, I didn't expect it to be this bad. To start off Thursday's events, somebody drove through a concrete wall at Caesars Palace despite guidance from the traffic cones. But everything else was fine leading up to the FP1 and 2 practices. I almost forgot to ask, what are the start times for the weekend? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I know they want to race under the lights, but 11:30 and 3 a.m.? Alright, whatever. I'm just happy to see the cars on track. The first 9 minutes seemed like just another regular practice session. Then all of a sudden... a manhole cover for a water valve cracked badly, damaging 2 cars that drove over it. Ferrari's Carlos Sainz had his battery, engine, and chassis sustain catastrophic damage, while Esteban Ocon suffered significant chassis damage. And worst of all, Sainz couldn't even feel his legs at first. The FIA completely dropped the ball, not just for the one man cover incident, but there were multiple that had problems. So now Ferrari has to fix the car. And how's the FIA respond? By giving them a 10-place grid penalty. Man, y'all are insane, but it wouldn't be as crazy as what was about to happen to the fans. Those who purchased tickets for 2 practice sessions, buckle up, cause it's about to get crazy. After the first practice session was canceled completely after the incident, the second practice was delayed by 2.5 hours for repairs to the track. When the second practice session eventually began at 2:30 a.m., there were no fans left in the stands as they were kicked out at 1:30 a.m. due to staffing and logistical reasons. The FIA responded with a bullshit statement. There is no higher priority at F1, blah 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 blah, manhole cover, blah 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 blah, these additional measures, blah 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 blah, safe movement of fans and employees out of the circuit, blah 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 blah. We look forward to providing a safe and entertaining race weekend for all. You could have just said sorry and left it at that. So basically what they're saying is you're not getting your money back, but you can have a t-shirt. But since it's Formula One, there's a catch. It's online only and you still have to pay for shipping. You also have to take into account F1 merchandise is extremely expensive. You are not going to get much, if anything at all, with that $200 voucher. But I think this reply sums it up best. I paid for 2 practice sessions and only saw 8 minutes from my seat. Refund us. Well, you might be getting a juicy settlement because Formula One is being sued on behalf of 35,000 fans who had to leave. And really, that's most of the tomfoolery that happened during this weekend. The only other issues were some hotels and restaurants not getting a whole lot of business, and Formula One trying to stop anyone from getting a free view of the race. They were putting different curtains up on the fences, but what's funny is they must have done it during the day because you could clearly see through it. And also, you could just just use the escalators and parts of the bridge to see it as well. Hell, even the reflections.
Let's go!
You could tell this dude has never been in a position of power before, abusing it at its finest. Outside of the negatives, again, the race and qualifying went smoothly, and it was so cool seeing the cars flying on the strip, and the lights as well as the hotels and casinos made it look even cooler. Just the spear alone was amazing. They even had fucking SpongeBob on there. Although I have to agree with Max Verstappen to some extent. 99% show, 1% sporting event. I wonder if he feels differently after winning. But in conclusion, that is all the clownery that took place at the Vegas GP. There's an old saying, first impressions are everything, and that first day left a sour taste in a lot of fans' mouths. If Formula One wants to appeal to the American audience, they need to do a better job than that. Oops, I almost forgot one. Imagine being forced to live right next to a Formula One street course.
Y'all care more about Formula One than you do your tenants.
Formula One frustrations for residents at the Harmon at 370 Apartments.
It's a nightmare. Complete nightmare.
The complex happens to be not so conveniently located directly next to the F1 pit building, which is essentially the F1 Las Vegas headquarters. On Monday, property managers sent out this letter stating that the parking lot on the left side of the complex will be temporarily closed due to the event. The closure means dozens of tenants will have to walk blocks from one side of the complex to the other. On top of that, visitors are being charged $40 for entry in what residents believe is an attempt to cash in while one of the largest sporting events in the world rolls into Las Vegas.
Now, some of the residents also sharing with us they plan to file a lawsuit against the complex for some of the inconveniences they've had to deal with over the course of a year while the F1 pit building and racetrack were being built.
Anyways, let me know down in the comments how you feel about the Vegas clownery, as well as what you think the future holds for this Grand Prix. Let me know it all in the comments below. And once again, that'll do it for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Black Flags Matter. Catch you next time.